So this is the last one from the topic environmental management of toxic and hazardous chemical, and this article is regulation. Okay, regulation for transportation of hazardous waste. What is the rules and regulation that are adopted in industry as well as in the laboratory for the transportation of hazardous waste, the rules and regulation that the industries as well as what we say the industries adopt for the transportation of hazardous waste. So that's the important rules and regulation, and due to this rules and regulation, the chemical waste that has been generated in the laboratory or in industry that can be disposed of very carefully. Okay, and that is why this rule, because of this rule, that everyone adopt the possible outcome so that there should be no accident at all. Whenever we are dealing with chemical, it's and its transportation, then in that case definitely chances of accident may be there. Similarly, you know that in the laboratory continuously we work on chemicals, so the waste may be generated periodically or regularly, and this waste generated cannot be kept for a longer period of time in the laboratory itself. So it should have to be disposed of somehow, and that is why it's very necessary to adopt some of the rules and regulation. Otherwise, randomly, if we throw some of the chemical from one place to another place, then in that case, the possibility of accident may be there. And that is to avoid the accident to happen in industry, we have to adopt some regulation. And that is the regulation that already which has been stated, and what is that regulation that we are going to see in this article. Okay, so we know that the waste that is generated in the laboratory or in industry, that waste we throw we throw onto the landfill area or some of the treatment sites, that may be incinerator where we can take all of the or most of the waste generated for further disposal. Okay, it means that we directly cannot take that waste generated from the place where it has been generated to a place of disposal. Okay, so it must be treated first, it should have to be treated first again. Okay, you know that any chemical which has been generated, you directly take it from one place to another place. This we can do with whatever the garbage that has been created at houses, at homes. Okay, whatever the garbage that is created, but we cannot treat the chemical waste like that way. So instead of that, we have to take a care that the waste generated must be packed carefully so that it could be easily transported from the place of from the place where it has been generated to a place where it can be disposed of. That means a transportation, a mean of transportation should be would be there in between the place where the chemical waste is generated and the place where it has to be disposed of. So that for that sake, it is necessary that we have to take care of the packing of the hazardous waste that is generated. Okay, so that care is need to be taken. At the same time, you know that the chemical waste generated today, next day, and continuously generated in the laboratory, and that waste generated need to be stored there for some period of time. Okay, some period of time, and after that there may be a chance that this waste generated may be taken from the industry site to the disposal site. Okay, so during that period, that means all of the chemical waste that is generated has to be safely kept in the industry premises itself or in the laboratory premises itself. So how a care can be taken, all these things has been mentioned in the regulation. Okay, all those things that we need to adopt, or industries or chemical laboratories need to adopt or practice, that the waste generated, how it can be treated, or how, in what way it should have to be treated. Okay, that is mentioned in the regulation for transportation of hazardous waste. So what is the first recommendation in the regulation? Okay, what is the first recommendation in the regulation is that a particular industry or a laboratory which generate a lot of waste, chemical waste, then it has to appoint one hazardous waste coordinator. Okay, hazardous waste coordinator must be designated or appointed by the laboratory or that particular industry which happen to generate chemical waste in larger quantity. Okay, larger quantity. When a chemical waste is generated in larger quantity, it is mandatory for that particular industry or laboratory to appoint or designate one post, and that post is called as hazardous waste coordinator. Hazardous waste coordinator. What this hazardous waste coordinator do? This hazardous waste coordinator works to oversee all the activities regarding disposal of hazardous waste from which has been generated in the industry to a disposal site. That is its duty. It is the duty of the waste coordinator or hazardous waste coordinator to look continuously for the chemical waste which has been generated, and with regards to the chemical waste, how it can be transported from the place to the disposal site. That is the duty that this hazardous waste coordinator has to perform. Okay, so it is the duty, or it is the first thing that any industry or a laboratory which generate chemical waste on large scale has to appoint one hazardous waste coordinator. Okay, one post they have to fill, or they have to recruit one post, and that post is called as hazardous waste coordinator. Okay, then second rule, what is that second rule? What is the second rule? Second rule is that the industry, it is the duty of the industry who generate the waste in the laboratory. Then if they generate the chemical waste in the laboratory, then it would have to be finally the responsibility of that particular industry. Okay, it is the responsibility of the industry who generate chemical waste. Okay, then its disposal is again a duty of that particular industry. Due to that, okay, the industry as well as the hazardous waste coordinator, okay, unanimously has to appoint one person who can be called as disposal contractor. Okay, disposal contractor. That means the hazardous waste along with industry has to appoint one more person called as a disposal contractor. And the disposal contractor, or the duty of the disposal contractor, is to transport the chemical waste that has been generated from the industry side to the disposal side. It is the duty of the disposal contractor. Okay, and what is the hazardous waste contractor do? This hazardous waste contractor, hazardous waste coordinator would look after the disposal contractor, and also it is the duty of the hazardous waste coordinator to appoint along with along with or unanimously or in contact with industry to appoint a disposal contractor, and this disposal contractor transports the chemical waste that is generated in the industry to a disposal site. Okay, but at the same time we should have to think about, or the hazardous waste coordinator has to think about, the disposal contractor should have certain qualification. Otherwise, if you directly appoint any person as disposal contractor, then This disposal contractor may be of no, may not be having the qualification as required to become a disposal contractor. That means this hazardous waste coordinator has to look before coming into contract with the disposal contractor the minimum qualification fulfilled by the person to whom the contract may be given, and finally that person may be called as disposal contractor. That means disposal contractor, that person should bear certain qualification, okay, certain qualification, certain what we say requirement, and that requirement must be compliance, must be comply by whatever the qualification that is required. If that qualification is not there, then such person cannot be appointed as disposal contractor. That means there is necessary, or there is some qualification. That qualification is expected from the disposal contractor. What are those qualifications that this disposal contractor should have? Okay, the disposal contractor, okay, must be competence to handle waste, that he should be able to handle waste, that he should have experience to handle chemical waste. Next is the he should be financially stable. That means he should have a what we call a financial aspects. All those things that this hazard sorry, what we call disposal contractor should have. That means he must be financially stable, and he should possess at the same time licenses, what we call certain licenses, permits. Okay, suppose a person may be having some what we call trucks or any means for transportation, then he should bear the permit for that also. So such things, such necessary things as for carrying out transportation and any other activities, that this person must be able to possess certain permits. Okay, uh, the most important thing again, what are the methods, what is the method that this disposal contractor follow to dispose of the chemicals. Okay, so that is the most important thing, because the chemical waste which is generated in chemical industry, that can be directly thrown onto the landfill area. This is one method. Another method may be the chemical waste that is generated can be disposed of into the incinerator. Okay, so these are the various ways that these disposing of the chemical waste can be done. So all these method, many of the methods are there. Okay, many of the methods are there, I have just stated two one. So such methods must be known by this what we call this disposal contractor. Okay, he should have at the same time, only one person cannot do all the work. Okay, so a person who has taken a contract, that person might have many person along with him carrying the work of what we say disposing of chemical. That means the persons that are involved in the disposing of chemical should be very experienced, educated. Okay, at the same time the disposal contractor should have taken the insurance of all those who are working together for disposing of the chemical. That means he should have taken the insurance of each and everything, including the persons, including the transport, including the vehicles that is meant for transportation. So all these things, okay, all these things that this disposal contractor should have. Okay, and at the same time, at the end, we have to consider some of the references from the recent users. Okay, recent users means what, you know, suppose if you want to give a contract to some person, then that person might have worked on the same issue or the same liability at some different places. Okay, then we have to take the references of all those other people who have hired the same person for the same purpose. Okay, so if we take the references, and the references shows that the person who you are hiring is a good in his work, then when you are positive with that, then and then only you could give the contract to the disposal contractor. Okay, you can give the contract to that person. Okay, you can give only the contract to that person when you see all of the qualification that this particular person have. In that circumstances only we can give the contract to that person. Otherwise, if any of the things that has been mentioned in the list, if it is not satisfying, if it is not satisfied with any person, then you could not give the contract to that person. Okay, so this is what a disposal contract sorry coordinator, hazardous waste coordinator and industry has to look into this qualification. And after satisfying all those qualification, they can give a contract to a person who can be called as disposal contractor. Okay, disposal contractor later on, because it is his duty to take away all the waste which has been generated in the industry from the industry side to the disposal side. Okay, then the third one is the packaging of the waste. You all know how the chemical waste which has been generated can be packed. Okay, packing that, whenever we are to make we are to pack something, some chemical waste that is generated, then we have seen one thing, the chemical waste can be what we say classified, as well as they can be segregated depending upon incompatibility of the chemical, depending upon various kinds of pyrophoric nature, incompatibility, oxidizing property, reducing property, whatever you may take into consideration. Depending upon that, we classify chemical. Okay, acidic, basic. We classify chemical and then segregate the chemicals. Okay, before segregating chemical, it's very important that whatever the container in which we are packing this chemical waste, it should be leak proof. Okay, it should be completely leak proof. Otherwise, if there is a leakage, then what happened during transportation, the leakage can damage or leakage can catch fire, or any such incident can be occurred during transportation. So whatever the chemical waste that we are packing should be leak proof. At the same time, there should be a cushion, what we say, the inner container in which if a chemical waste is being placed, then the inner container should have a cushion, so that any during transportation any kind of impact could be absorbed. Okay, could be handled easily. And moreover, the outer, whatever the outer container is there, this outer container should have been labeled and marked. Okay, what type of chemical is there, how much quantity which has been left, what is the pH, and all those things that has been done on the chemical before put for the disposal purpose. That thing has to be mentioned on the label, and which has been stick in the front onto the outer container. Okay, so that is the duty that we have to do, or this hazardous waste coordinator, along with what we say the disposal coordinator, disposal contractor. They can perform these duties in the laboratory side itself. Okay, so similarly, there are some chemicals which may be there are some classified chemical which are about to be incinerated. Then what care need to be taken, all those things. Okay, that has to be that has to be done by the hazardous waste coordinator himself, because you know some of the chemicals which have to be incinerated, or which are subjected to which are about to subject to incinerator process. In that case, the chemical waste that we are about packed, that we have packed from in the laboratory side, and directly if we dispose of in the incinerator, and if it is there some what we say packing material like polythene or anything else like that, in that case what would happen? Instead of what we instead of disposing of that chemical, what would happen? There would be a different type of incident would happen. So a care need to be taken. Okay, what kind of care? Whenever we are subjecting any chemical for incinerator purpose, then the chemical waste which has been packed up should be in the high density polyethylene bag. Okay, the chemical waste should have to be packed in high density polyethylene bag. Otherwise, the packing material may be of different and we are subjecting it to the incinerator process, then any other incident may happen. So instead of or to avoid such incident, then you should take a care that any chemical waste which is to be incinerated must have to be packed in high density polyethylene bags. Okay, so any kind of accident could not happen as we subject all this chemical waste to the um, incinerator. Okay. Now the most important thing, the fourth one, storage. Okay, storage prior to transportation. You know, chemical waste continuously, periodically, suppose generates in the chemical laboratory. Okay, that storage, the storage of this chemical waste, there should have to be some warehouses in the industry where this chemical waste can be stored, or sometimes, or sometimes, as the contract has been given to the disposal contractor, then this disposal contractor regularly take away this waste generated chemical or chemical waste which has been generated regularly from the laboratory side to a place where it can be stored. That means this contractor, disposal contractor should have some warehouses where he can keep, he can keep this chemical waste generated for some period of time before transportation. Okay, so storage facility must be available in the industry. In case if it is not available, then the contract to whom the contract is given to the person. For example, this disposal contractor should have a facility to store the chemical waste called as what we call warehouses. Okay, warehouses. Similarly, the next point is the loading for shipment. Whenever the chemical waste which is generated that need to be transported from the place where it has been stored, okay, where it has been stored to a disposal site. So during that, what is the duty? What is the duty of this hazardous waste coordinator? There, okay, the hazardous waste coordinator should inspect all of the chemical drums which has been packed with chemicals, whether they may not be having any kind of leakage or damage. Okay, or any kind of labeling that has been done on the container might have been slipped away. So there will be chance, because some of the chemical waste packed which has been packed and stored for some period of time, and after that when it is about to transport from that place to the disposal site, then it is the duty, first of all, before loading that chemical into the vehicle, onto the vehicle, it is the duty of hazardous waste coordinator to look after these points, that this chemical waste container might not have been damaged, there might not be any kind of leakage, any label which has been stick to it might not have slipped away. So all these things that this hazardous waste coordinator check before that before a vehicle is transported from that place to a disposal site. So it is the duty of the hazardous waste coordinator to check it out, the chemical waste, before loading onto the vehicles. Okay, the next point is planning for emergencies. Okay, planning for emergencies, it is also done, it is also should have to be looked after by the hazardous waste coordinator. Okay, the hazardous waste coordinator should anticipate each and every time during the transportation process of chemical waste that any accident could happen. If he anticipate continuously that accident could happen, then he would be careful, he would take all the precautionary measure before that, so that in case of accident, a person involved in the transportation of chemical waste would be alert and could safeguard themselves, as well as the further accident could be later on avoided. Okay, so as we have seen that this hazardous waste coordinator should make arrangement of what we say protective clothing, footwears, face protection, respiratory protection, as well as some absorbent material. If in case a liquid spills or falls anywhere else, that we have seen that some protective apparels should have to be made ready, so that those could be made available in case of accident. At the same time, those persons who are involved in the transportation of chemical waste must be trained how to handle in case of any kind of emergency occurs, to treat with the chemicals. Okay, because they are going to treat with the chemical waste. Okay, chemical waste that could be dangerous, poisonous, toxic, anything else that might be there. So all those persons who are involved in this should have to be beforehand trained, so that in case of any accident they can at once handle or handle the situation. So that is the thing that this hazardous waste coordinator should have to look after, that the personals who are involved in the transportation must have to be very what we say trained. At the same time, the all those arrangement that this uh, hazardous waste coordinator must make before transporting the chemical from one place to another place. So these are the things when any person or any industry looks after, or when any person or any industry take care of these things, definitely the chances of accident during transportation could be avoided to many extent. So that is what these rules and regulation which has been mentioned, so that every industry, it is the duty of every industry to follow these rules and regulation. Okay.